Welcome to the Poet's Room. I'm your host, Anthony Hendricks. And this week's blog is The Value of Grief. Last time I talked with Cousin Jeff. A friend in distress called this morning. Suicide had taken a family friend. Suicide rates are up with the economic turmoil created by the pandemic. Last fall, another friend lost a brother to suicide. Evidently, his brother's failing business drove him over the edge. As someone who has experienced his own dark night of the soul, I understand the pain and suffering that could lead to such a bleak conclusion. I feel lucky, for I found help and learned to turn those feelings of shame and desperation over to the power that flows through all things. God is one of the names frequently used for that power. Losses pummel us, soften us, open the door to the heart that can break from the sorrows of life, yet heal in loving through sorrows. Sorrow opens the door to greater compassion for others struggling when we recall what our desperation felt like. Last time I talked with Cousin Jeff was after his mother, Aunt Phyllis, died, Uncle Bob gone before. We talked remembrances of the bird farm, pheasant, quail, chucker, where he and his siblings grew. I and my family visited, especially on Christmas for big family gatherings in the clubhouse. As years pass, families go their ways, yet I reflect on my formative years in that large extended family of kin, realize the connection and affection given by aunts, uncles, and cousins, feel lucky, even blessed. Jeff had lost a son to suicide, and the last thing he said to me, "I hope you don't freak, but I've learned to always say, love you." Now, wet eyes, tears as grief comes in loving memory of Cousin Jeff and appreciation for all my relatives. Over 500,000 Americans have died so far from COVID-19. Many families have lost loved ones. A nephew lost his father-in-law, his wife, her father. Some people survive the initial round of COVID, suffer lingering long-term debilitating effects. Even parents who still have work must deal with home virtual learning, as schools have had to limit in-class schooling to reduce the spread of COVID. Life has literally been turned upside down. Normal now: 1, always wear a mask when in public spaces. 2, try to maintain 6-foot spacing when in public spaces. 3, wash your hands with sanitizer. 4, avoid public gatherings. 5, don't hug grandchildren. I miss hugging grandchildren. There are many sorrows in life. As a culture, we do not grieve well. We frequently stuff feelings rather than letting tears flow. I had to learn the value of grief, of feeling the sadness and tears that can well up when loss occurs. The following poem from a few years back expresses that grief work. Warming to spring. Warming to spring, sitting in a friend's drive while cardinals sing. Stiff in blue air, buds line limbs, swell toward leaves. Feeling memories rise, old friends gone by, a boy who never was. Winter-killed frogs rise to surface on top of the pond. Old griefs melt like dirty snow on my cheeks. I'm warming to spring. wife's parents are buried in St. Mary's Cemetery in Richland Center. Several times each year we visit their graves. The cross, more than just representing Christianity, exists as a spiritual, universal, archetypal symbol. Draw a curved line from each end of the cross and an approximate circle becomes evident. The circle represents wholeness. The universal nature of the cross represents what it means to be a fully developed human being. That development requires stretching and growth in all quadrants. Grief acknowledges loss and the vulnerability that we all share. Honest suffering fosters the growth of compassion. We only grieve what we love. Grief can open the door to appreciate a longer, more distant view of life, a view that stretches me to look at the chain of being, all my ancestors, mother, father, grandparents, back toward the dawn of time, those who brought me into this human form. Peering forward, the view stretches me to look beyond the grave, that point when this body returns to earth and I go on to what comes next. I hope and pray that the future on earth stretches out for my children and grandchildren and yours. Shortly after my last conversation with Cousin Jeff, I learned recently that he had suffered a stroke. Debilitated, he lived in a nursing home the last 2 years of his life. I too carry the best of Cousin Jeff, friends who've gone on, and all my relatives. Love you too, Jeff. Thank you, friends, for joining me. May peace and serenity be yours. Until next time, this is Tony signing off.